The film starts with a scene where a Nazi naval boat in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean, controlled by the Nazis, boards a ship that belongs to Gus March Phillips, who is actually a part of the Special Forces under Winston Churchill. After an initial inspection and requesting their documents, Gus and his colleague Anders Lassen are asked if there are more people on the ship. Gus and Lassen claim it's just the two of them. After some initial checks and a bit of teasing by Gus and Lassen, annoying the Nazi officers who were planning to set the ship on fire with gasoline, suddenly one of their men in the lower deck of the ship named Henry Hayes ambushes and shoots at them. Following this event, Lassen immediately takes down the senior officers with Gus and Henry, starting to kill each one of them. Then, as a mockery, Lassen waves to the ship with the lifeless body of the senior officer. Meanwhile, a friend of Gus named Freddie has planned a bomb on their destroyer ship, and with some delay, the bomb explodes. Next, a scene from 25 days ago is shown where Mr. Winston Churchill is showing a film to his top military officials. The film reveals that Nazis are on the verge of victory throughout Europe, and the only hope against the German army is the British forces. Due to the German U-boats, considered a serious threat, the British Navy is crippled, and these U-boats don't allow any assistance to reach the British Army, sinking all ships regardless of their cargo. As long as these U-boats patrol the North Atlantic waters, there is no hope for salvation, and reaching peace in Europe will be impossible. Churchill declares that the Germans have cut off our supply chain with their U-boats. We will now cut off their U-boat supply chain with the help of our intelligence forces. We have found a way to disrupt all services, repair, and armament conducted by Hitler's U-boat fleet with the help of two Nazi auxiliary ships called Bibundi and Licomba, and an Italian supply ship named Duchessa on the island of Fernando Po. Churchill emphasizes that he wants tough folks to go out and sink these ships. Military authorities are suggesting an airstrike on Fernando Po Island, but Churchill says if we attack a neutral Spanish colony, then all neutral European lands will join the Nazi army. He emphasizes that Hitler doesn't play by the rules, so we shouldn't either. This operation would be unauthorized, illegal, and unofficial. If the British are caught, they'll be arrested. But if the Nazi army catches them, torture and death await. Then Colin Gabbins, as Churchill's assistant, summons a guy named Gus March Phillips and briefs him on the operation. Two other agents, Heron and Miss Stewart, have their parts in the mission too. Miss Stewart's role is to seduce the island's commander officer to distract him. Gus only agrees if his loyal companions join. He introduces each one, emphasizing that Jeffrey Appleyard is the key player currently held by the Nazis in La Palma and captured. Since Gus won't proceed without Appleyard, they decide to rescue him first. In the next scene on the Ivory Coast beach, deep in Nazi-occupied territory, Heron and Stewart are seen on a train preparing a plan, ingeniously swapping their bag with a Nazi bag. Afterwards, in their room, they decode the bag's secret, transmitting precise details about the Duchessa ship's equipment and cargo for the Special Operations Headquarters in London. Stewart then engages the Nazi military officer in conversation to distract him while Heron cleverly switches the bags back in place. Then in the Checkers Palace in the War Room, the military personnel and high-ranking officials gather with the Prime Minister Churchill. They discuss Hitler's ultimatum. Either make peace or we will annihilate the entire British army. They try to persuade Churchill to agree, assuring him they won't bring any more loans. However, Churchill opposes, believing it's surrender and they can't trust Hitler. He emphasizes the need to curb famine in the country, requiring 3 million tons of supplies to cross the Atlantic annually. With 50% of these figures lost due to U-boats, he refuses to yield to peace. Next, Churchill's aide, Gubbins, briefs him on the operation's details, mentioning that the Duchessa ship is equipped with supplies for the U-boats for an unknown period. Gubbins stresses the importance of secrecy, warning that if exposed, the Parliament will oust Churchill. In the following scene, the Gus ship near La Palma in the Canary Islands is shown. They are preparing to attack the Nazi military headquarters to rescue their ally, Jeffrey Appleyard. They stealthily enter the area after clearing the surroundings with cameras. Anders Lassen cleverly takes out two Nazis before noticing them from behind using a simple bow and arrow. He then eliminates all watchdogs and those within his arrow's range. The team enters the compound, initially killing Nazis stealthily. Suddenly and swiftly, they were shooting them from behind with a rapid barrage. But once Freddy seizes control of the machine gun, they open fire on all Nazis. Following the path, Lassen eventually finds Appleyard and rescues him from captivity and torture. They all leave the place together as explosions engulf the entire region during their exit. Heron and Stewart arrive at Fernando Po Island earlier than planned to be able to communicate on time and for Stewart to seduce the island commander, Heinrich Luhr. A meeting with Luhr is arranged, and he expresses dissatisfaction that Heron did not send the packages and equipment to the designated location on time. Luhr threatens to reduce the fee. Stewart defends Heron, stating the fee reduction should not be unreasonable. She then introduces herself as the gold trader in New York. Luhr questions why should he accept Stewart when he already has a profitable contract. Stewart replies, "Because more money and fun are in my deal." They agree to negotiate. Later on, Heron and Stewart notice a naked woman being tortured, probably by Luhr's forces. Heron assures Stewart that when the Gus men arrive at the port, it will be empty to infiltrate. He plans a lavish masquerade party at his nightclub for high-ranking military officials, and another one at the dock for soldiers. Heron warns Stewart that Luhr won't enjoy the party, and it's her job to distract him. The Gus ship is shown approximately 15 days away from reaching Fernando Po Island. The group discusses how to speed up their arrival, with Jeffrey Appleyard suggesting a risky shortcut with ups and downs leading to potential engagement and identification issues. Heron learns through one of Luhr's henchmen that Duchessa's ship intends to leave the island 3 days earlier than scheduled. Meanwhile, Stewart tries to deepen his relationship with Luhr. Aaron and Stewart then attempt to communicate this news to the operations commander in London, informing them that Duchessa will depart Fernando Po port 3 days ahead of schedule. Upon relaying the message, it quickly reaches Gus and the other military personnel, who promptly inform their troops about the situation. Inside the ship eventually, Gus agrees to the riskier but shorter route, despite the potential capture by the British forces and the threat of U-boats. However, according to calculations, they can reach the port in about 12 days through this route instead of 15 days. Further along the ship's route, Gus notices a British destroyer approaching them. They are asked to reveal their intentions as they are moving in unauthorized waters. Although Lassen tries to explain they are fishing, they hold Gus accountable and state that such an operation is illegal and must cease. Soon, it is evident on the radar that U-boats are in the vicinity, diverting attention. Gus orders them to move on, and luckily, they successfully evade the battle scene without harm. Heron takes Stewart to meet a person named Kambili Kalu. After a brief chat about the operation, Kalu, who despises the Nazis, vows to assist them and commits to providing a tugboat along with his 12 skilled personnel, including himself, for the operation. Stewart then shows Kalu what good marksmanship means. Subsequently, Heron and Kambili Kalu arrive at the Gus ship and discuss the operation. After Kalu becomes aware of their methods, Gus announces that they lack sufficient manpower. As a solution, Kalu proposes both additional forces and ammunition. He highlights the challenges in sinking the Duchessa ship due to heavy security and the brightness of the surroundings, making it a difficult task. Therefore, Gus assigns Heron the mission of disabling the lights by detonating a bomb beforehand. Gus declares that if everything goes smoothly, they will make it home without firing a shot in the end. In the next scene, Heron gets ready to carry out the bombing operation at the Fernando Po power plant. However, he gets surprised from behind by Nazi forces. He stays calm, pulls out his small gun from his sleeve, and shoots them. When his bullets run out, he's forced to use a knife for the last one. Eventually, the celebrations are held as promised, one for high-ranking individuals like Luhr and another for the regular soldiers and servants. Heron leaves the party to inform Gus and the team in time, as the bomb inside the power plant explodes. He signals them with a light and communicates via wireless that the Duchessa ship is not easily sinkable, and they don't have enough explosives. Meanwhile, Gubbins also realizes Admiral Pond's arrival, who orders them to stop the operation. Ignoring the orders, Gubbins even communicates with Gus, but he is claiming the sound is unclear. Ultimately, Pond threatens Gubbins that the operation is reckless and I will order the Prime Minister's dismissal. He leaves, then Gubbins contacts Churchill, revealing the operation has been compromised due to a mole among them. He continues that Pond intends to remove you, and we were commanded to stop the operation. However, Churchill insists on continuing the operation seriously and hopes for the team's success. They then decide to steal the ships instead of sinking them. and detonate them later. Gus discusses the operation details with Kambili Kalu, who wants his tugboat, so he provides his best men to them. The operation commences as Stewart sings on the stage for the island commander Lure. Gus and Henry are busy killing soldiers at the dock, and Freddy is setting bombs on the ships. Jeffrey Appleyard, with the help of other Kalu forces, eliminates soldiers from inside the ships. The operation continues with everyone playing their part, including Anders Lassen, shooting forces with his special bow. Gus instructs Freddy and Henry to take control of the tugboat after the bombing operations. The back and forth continues, and finally Jeffrey orders one of the Kalu forces to connect the Vulcan tugboat to the dock from the front to Duchessa. Everyone lies in wait for the fuel depot to explode so they can escape in time with the boats and steal them before all the forces gather at the dock. Meanwhile, Stewart and Lure are seen, and it seems like he's up to something against Stewart, as if he caught wind of the situation. Suddenly, the ammunition depot explodes, but a bit faster than planned, and alarms start blaring. All forces rush to the dock, and shooting and battles commence. The bombs explode one by one, and Gus and the tugboats, including Duchessa, find an opportunity to escape. But before that, they signal to send fast boats. Lure realizes the situation and, blaming his assistant, kills him as he now sees him as the culprit. He orders the fast boats to catch them quickly. Stewart arrives in a car to set things straight. Lure now knows who she's up against and understands these disruptions are caused by her and her accomplices. In that moment, Stewart seduces him by showing her legs, but suddenly she shoots him in the head with a gun, ending him. Gus waits for Heron and Stewart to join them. They inform the British battleship that they have Duchessa in their possession, and then, via telephone, Gubbins communicates and tells the end of the operation and its success to Churchill. Eventually, they are told that due to insubordination, they'll face trial and imprisonment. But in the final scene, all members stand united, and Prime Minister Churchill speaks with them, saying this event led America into the war in Europe, and we managed to get rid of the U-boat submarines. Finally, he tells them that they will work for the Prime Minister from now on, and likely won't face trial, perhaps with his intervention.